Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and very good morning. I'm Nurul Ainaa Farhanah, rated as now with my metric number A200931. And today I will share a finding about detection of nanoplastic in Greenland and Antarctic ice core by Meteri et al. In 2023. This work showed that even the most remote ice on the Earth now contain a plastic at the nanometer scale, and let's see how that was discovered and why it's matter. Plastic pollution is no longer confined to the beaches or surface water. It's break down the fragment and smaller than a grain of the pollen, which are turning out in the snow, rain, and even in human blood. We call this particle under 5 milliliter as a microplastic. Meanwhile, those are below 1 micrometer are called as a nanoplastic because they are almost sweatless and they can hitch high on the wind and wave spray and potentially circle the globe. If this nanoplastic have reached at the Arctic and Antarctic, it's confirmed that a truly global reach of our plastic footprints. So what is nanoplastic? Nanoplastic are invisible to a naked eye, which is less than a micrometer, about 100 the width of the human hair. They will form when the larger debris is ground down by the sunlight, wave, or a mechanical abrasion, and their tiny size let them penetrate the cell and travel in the bloodstream, and its possibility cross the blood-brain barrier. By detecting them is really difficult because we need to filtering is that small particle, which is really tricky, and conventionally microscope even cannot see them. That's why the new analytical tools are really essential. Next, why we need to study at the polar region. The polar act as the clean air laboratories, which is they are far from the factory city, so any contaminant found there must be traveled in a long distance. Ice and fern are partially compacted snow, which is accumulated layer by layer, preserving a chemical history much like a tree ring. Finding plastic here will be a proof a long range transport, which is highly potentially risk to fragile polar ecosystem and underscore that no corner in the earth is untouched. So there are four objectives of this study, which is first to detect and measure the nanoplastic in the polar ice. Next, we identify the type of the plastic polymer that present and quantify the concentration in the Greenland versus the Antarctica. And next, we suggest a potential source and transport mechanism. Next, we move on to the sampling site, which is the researcher drilled a 40-meter fern core at the site T2015 A5 in the southwest Greenland and extract a sea ice core of the coast of Antarctica. This core is represent a different environment, which is one is the atmospheric deposit over the land, and the other one is a marine subject giving a broader picture of the contamination pathway. Here's some detection method that we have been used, which is using TD-PTR-MS, which a traditional technique that try to isolate the particle on the filter. And from here, the team used the thermal desorption proton transfer reaction mass spectrometry, which is they gently heated the melted ice, so any particle plastic derived derived molecule vaporize, which is based on the thermal desorption. And in this PTR chamber, those vapor are ionized with a fragment, preserving their unique chemical signature. And finally, the mass spectrometer separate the ion by mass to charge ratio by producing a fingerprint fingerprints that match the specific polymer, and those four process it a rapid, sensitive, and to avoid any losing particle during the filtration. Next, we're going to move on to the plastic detected in Greenland and also Antarctica. Firstly, we're going to move to the in Greenland follicle, which is we detected a six type of nanoplastic were identified. First is polyethylene (PE). The second one is polypropylene (PP). Next is polyethylene terephthalate (PET). And four is polystyrene (PS). And next is polyvinyl chloride (PVC). And lastly, a tire wear nanoparticles. In the Antarctic sea ice, the plastic were detected was a three type, which is polyethylene PE. Second one is polypropylene PP. The lastly is polyethylene terephthalate, which is PET. Here's some concentration result of nanoplastic in Greenland and Antarctica. So based on the headline number, 30.2 nanogram per milliliter was in Greenland, which is a little bit smaller than Antarctica sea ice, which is they consist 52.3 nanogram milliliter, about which is about 4 times higher than Greenland. One explanation is the sea ice act like a sponge, which they trapping the particle from both water and the air before freezing. And the disparity also warn us that the concentration alone doesn't equal safety, but composition and biological update also matter. So how this particle can go over there is by atmospheric jet stream that can carry out dust plastic in 1,000 of kilometers. Net is ocean current circulation by move a buoyant fragment forward, which is when the wave break and the bubble will burst and eject the nanoplastic by letting spray into the air and to be redeposited with the snow. And finally, the possible is can be the local human activity, which is by ship or research station that can add a smaller but a direct source. And this combination mean a plastic are not a part of the Earth long range circulation system, much like salt or a heavy metal once were. So for the conclusion, the study offered three takeaways, which is first, the present nanoplastic are confirmed in the both Arctic and Antarctica ice. The second is perseverance, which is a multiple polymer type shown at the diverse origin and persistent. And next, the number three is implication, which is if the poles are contaminated, then every ecosystem is at the risk, which is demanding the global mitigation strategy. And lastly, the fourth is continuous monitoring by method like TDPTRMS that will be crucial to track trend and evaluate the policy. However, what we can do to avoid this thing to be happen, which is first we can reduce single-use plastic, which is optional. We can use a reusable bag or something. And next, we must support the research into a biodegradable material. And lastly, we must advocate advocate for extended producer responsibility and better waste infrastructure because awareness convert a scientific insight into a societal change. And lastly, I like to credit the original author, which is Materi and his colleague. And I would like to thank my supervisor, Dr. Ahmad Abbastuti, for the guidance. And if you like to dive deeper, you can scan the QR code for the full paper for or my accompany poster. And thank you for your attention and happy to take the question.